In the autumn of 1941, Elizabeth Thompson sat on the porch of her modest wooden house on the outskirts of Boston, Massachusetts. Her wrinkled hands clutched a weathered envelope postmarked from Pearl Harbor. This was the last letter from her only son, James, received exactly 3 days before the Japanese attack on the American military base in Hawaii on December 7, 1941. She had kept this letter for 50 years, and each time she read it, the fading ink's aroma seemed to transport her back to those anxious times. Elizabeth vividly remembered how James, with eyes sparkling with enthusiasm, announced his decision to join the United States Navy in early 1941. As a widow who had lost her husband in a train accident 10 years earlier, Elizabeth could only manage a bitter smile to hide her concerns. James was everything to her, the only remnant of her beloved late husband. Every week, James never forgot to send letters to his mother, describing his life in Pearl Harbor. He wrote about Hawaii's beauty, his new friends from all corners of America, and about a Hawaiian girl named Leilani, who had stolen his heart. Elizabeth could feel her son's happiness through every word written on those papers. James even planned to propose to Leilani after his service ended. But fate had other plans. On that fateful morning, when Japanese planes showered Pearl Harbor with bombs, James was on duty aboard the USS Arizona. The battleship, pride of the American Navy, sank within minutes, taking more than 1,000 American sailors to the ocean floor. James was among them. Elizabeth received the death notification telegram on Christmas Day 1941, transforming what should have been a joyous day into an unforgettable day of mourning. In his final letter, James wrote about strange premonitions he had been experiencing. He described disturbing dreams, dark shadows seemingly lurking on the horizon, and a feeling that something momentous was about to happen. Yet at the letter's end, as always, he reassured his mother that everything would be fine and that he would soon be home for Christmas. Leilani, 4 months pregnant at the time, never remarried after James's death. She raised their daughter, whom she named Hope, alone. Elizabeth and Leilani exchanged letters for years, sharing their grief and memories of the man they loved. Hope grew into a beautiful young woman, inheriting James's blue eyes and her mother's exotic complexion. "50 years passed, and Elizabeth now sat on the same porch, watching the sunset with James's last letter in her lap. Hope, who had become a successful pediatrician, often visited her with her 3 children. In her grandchildren's features, Elizabeth could see shadows of James, as if her son lived on through them. Every year on Pearl Harbor's anniversary, Elizabeth made time to visit the USS Arizona Memorial in Hawaii. There, she met with other veterans and victims' families, sharing stories and tears. James's name was engraved on the memorial wall alongside thousands of others, an eternal reminder of young American heroes' sacrifice. Leilani passed away in 1985, taking her love and loyalty to James to her grave. Before dying, she gave the box containing all of James's letters to Hope, instructing her daughter never to forget her parents' love story torn apart by war. At age 75, Elizabeth began writing a memoir about James. She wanted the world to know her son not just as another Pearl Harbor casualty, but as a young man full of aspirations, who loved his country and family, who dreamed of a future he would never reach. The memoir was later published under the title Letters from James, a Mother's Memory of Pearl Harbor. Each time Elizabeth opened the memoir's pages, she could almost hear James's laughter, feel his warm embraces, and see his bright smile. Through her writings, James seemed to live again, telling his own story to future generations. On her 80th birthday, Elizabeth received a special surprise. Hope and her family arranged a meeting with several surviving Pearl Harbor veterans, including John Martinez, James's friend who survived the attack. John revealed how James had saved 3 fellow sailors' lives before going down with the ship. This unknown tale of heroism made Elizabeth even prouder of her son. Now in her twilight years, Elizabeth understood that losing James had taught her about the power of love and sacrifice. Through Hope and her grandchildren, James's legacy lived on. Each time she looked at James's photograph hanging in the living room, Elizabeth smiled, knowing that someday they would meet again. James's final letter is now displayed at the World War II Museum in Washington, D.C., a silent witness to history that changed the world. Beside it hangs James's photo in his Navy uniform, smiling confidently at the camera, unaware it would be his last photograph. Elizabeth Thompson passed away peacefully in 1995, exactly 54 years after the Pearl Harbor tragedy. She was buried next to James's symbolic grave in the Boston Veterans Cemetery. Her tombstone bears simple words, "A mother who never stopped loving." Hope placed James's last letter in her mother's coffin, reuniting mother and son separated by war and eternity. Don't forget to join us on Historias de Sombras for more touching historical stories that remind us of the power of love, sacrifice, and human resilience. Subscribe now and become part of our growing community of history enthusiasts. Ring the notification bell to never miss our weekly uploads of compelling historical narratives that bring the past to life.